one of my best friends in LA, he committed suicide the same day I sold my company. The reality is money doesn't solve all of life's needs, and it opened up a lot of other stuff. And still to this day, like battling your own mental health, I'm sure there's a lot of post-exit founders who all struggle with the same thing. But what I'll tell you, for those listening to this podcast that are on the journey of becoming successful, once you reach it, all the stuff that you went through doesn't go away. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Steve Weiss podcast, hosted by me, Steve Weiss. Today I got an awesome guest, a longtime friend of mine who is a character in himself. He's well known in the digital marketing world. His name is John Zacharias. He is an LA native, and he runs an agency called GEO. And he is coming on. Welcome, John.
What's up, Stevie? Good to see you, buddy.
So, John, talk a little about how we originally met.
Yeah, I was going through a tough time in my life, and I was looking for a job, and MuteSix, the company that Steve was running at the time, was all over LinkedIn. When I went onto LinkedIn to find a job, I hadn't seen how the digital marketing landscape had changed in about 5 years. And I just kept seeing this company over and over again. They were running all the ads. They had all the job openings going. So I picked up the phone and I called in, and Stevie Weiss picked up, man.
Where did you call from? You don't have to answer that question.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I called in from a payphone in a rehab facility in North Hollywood.
Wow. So you were in a rehab facility in North Hollywood and you found MuteSix. Just shows, you've made it in business when people in rehab facilities know that you exist. We were targeting a lot of our external marketing at MuteSix at the time toward recruiting from rehab facilities. But anyway,
it's a great place to recruit from, man.
So I meet John. John has turned into one of my closest friends. I like to think that, I had a positive impact in his life. I love John. But anyway, as the story goes, this character known as John Zacharias, the tornado or whatever you want to call him, he's known around the Los Angeles ecosystem. He comes to work for me. He's incredible. He knows SEO. He's probably one of the top sales guys in the world. And before he comes to work for me, though, he gives me this reference. And, I call lots of references. At the time, MuteSix is about a 25, 30-person agency, and I'm like, I need a good seller. I'm the only one selling. And to those in business, you can't really grow a company if you have one seller, right? Right, John?
Yeah, of course.
But who was your reference? Who was the guy that you said, Steve, call this guy up, and he'll give you a recommendation for me?
Yeah, so at the time, the only person on the planet that would vouch for me was Robert Downey Jr.
Wow.
So I put him down as my reference, and I think Stevie gave him a call.
So I get this guy, Robert Downey Jr., and I didn't think about it at first. That I didn't even look at who this guy was. I kind of just called the dude's number up, and I realized on the phone this guy's kind of famous. He's kind of well known, right, John? He's done stuff in his life which people would say that's pretty impressive, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I realized on the phone that this guy's super famous, and I was I thought I had the wrong number. I was like, do you know this John Zacharias guy? And then he ends up talking to me for about an hour on the phone. One of the nicest, most genuine people I've met, and I've obviously never talked to him again because he's way more important than all of us, and he's cool. But he was one of the nicest, most kind people that I met. He gave John a fantastic reference, and then John came to work for MuteSix. He had an illustrious 2-week journey at MuteSix. He was going through some dark stuff in his life, so he ended up we ended up parting ways 2 weeks in. It'll be another podcast for the future, and we talk about some of those dark times, but let's just say they're dark times. Anyway, what really happened next was really fascinating in the serendipity of life. John, you want to tell the story of how you met your business partner, Mr. Miller?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite stories. So, I realized that I needed to work for myself. I wasn't going to be able to work for somebody else. So the best thing that ever happened to me in my entire life was that Steve terminated me. because ultimately, you know, at the time I thought it was the worst thing that could ever happen to me, but it ended up being the best thing that ever happened for me. And he eventually circled back to help me get my own thing going, which I'm about to describe. But I was at a meeting in South Central LA in some guy's backyard. And this kid walked in and he was describing that he had just moved from San Francisco to Los Angeles and he needed to go to a meeting his first night. That's what somebody told him to do. And he was describing that he worked at this company called Open Door and he was a paid media guy. So his background was in Google advertising and he really understood Google advertising. But his employer had tasked him with a huge SEO project. They wanted him to get ranked on Google for the name of every single property in the country, like Google, like Zillow or Redfin were. So when you Google any address, they wanted Open Door to pop up number one. And he was saying how stressful this was, how complicated it was. He couldn't figure out how to do the project. And so I grabbed him afterwards and I said, don't worry, buddy. I'm the best SEO guy in the world. We're going to make sure that you guys are number one for everything. And we immediately became best friends. And we went on a retreat together that weekend. And we went to Ojai with a bunch of guys. And he picked me up at my house. And in the car, I told him my whole story, everything that had happened to me, where I was now, that I was trying to start my own business. And he said to me, dude, you're never going to believe this, but my best friend is Steve Weiss.
So I met Kevin. Kevin was the first guy that I met in Los Angeles. He worked at Google and I'm starving. Let me just say that. I have no money. I'm not really running a marketing agency because a marketing agency dictates that it's more than one person. The marketing agency I started was just me and I'm working at a Starbucks. And Kevin is nice enough to invite me to lunch at Google. And our friendship started just because he fed me at Google. And usually the people that feed you become your best friends. I remember I must have eaten like 3 or 4 lines at the buffet. I had some old, hand-me-down clothes that I brought from Jersey. And, people at Google were looking at me like, yo, Kev, why'd you take some like deranged homeless guy to come eat? What are you doing with this guy? He's like, why is he here? Like, how did he get through security type thing? And I remember I just hung out at Google all day. I was like,
yeah, I heard you were in a cutoff.
Yeah, I had like a kind of like a wife beater on.
Yeah.
No, but like I obviously like didn't belong at Google. At the time, I was still very Jersey. I was still very like trying to make it, and no formal education, no college degree, no real reason that Google would want to hire. Kevin went to Georgetown, so like he automatically fit into that mold of like here, But anyway, he was nice enough. I struggled to make friends when I moved to LA. I just, I struggled to date. I struggled to make friends. I didn't have much going for me, and Kevin was one of the only guys that like really was really nice to me and looked out for me, and so that's how we became friends.
Yeah, man, I have the same experience with him. He saw the beauty in me even when I was at my lowest point. And from the second that I met him, my whole life turned around.
Yeah, he's got a brightness in his soul. But anyway, so you meet Kevin. What happens next?
Yeah, man. So Kevin reconnects me back with Steve. And I really wanted to start an SEO agency. In my previous life, I had been studying it. I'd probably put in 30,000 hours. I understood how to code. I understood how I had this crazy backlink building network where we had access to thousands of publishers. So I can get anybody on the New York Times and the Huffington Post and the Wall Street Journal. And if you do that and you couple it with some really good content writing on your own website, then you can get any website to rank number one on Google for any term. Right. So I had previously been doing this for lawyers and specifically lawyers because I had my law degree. So I was helping like class action lawyers.
How did you go from law degree to like tell us that, like how you have a law degree?
Yeah. So I was in law school and I was working for one of my dad's friends at a wage and hour class action law firm. And I realized that the most important thing was getting the cases, right? If you could get the cases, you could be the rainmaker. Then you were the most valuable person in the law firm. And so instead of practicing law, I wanted to learn how to get the cases. And I learned that all of the cases were coming from Google. So I became obsessed with it. The only other time I've ever become so obsessed with anything was when I was 11 years old and I became obsessed with chess when my dad took me to the premiere of Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Wow.
And then I became one of the top chess players. I ranked 3rd in the state of California. So that's how obsessed I became with SEO. And I just started studying it all day and all night. And I was the absolute best in the world at it. And so I wanted to start doing it for e-commerce brands because I saw what Steve was doing and he was completely, innovating and launching these brands and scaling them on the back of Facebook ads. And so I wanted to do something similar, but on the Google side.
I never knew that you played chess. Are you still number 3, or you're like number 3 million in the state of California? How do they even quantify that? They're number 3 in California. Are you like number 3 with people that have like learning disabilities, or like is there like what is like?
No, I went and used to play tournaments.
Yeah,
you would go to tournaments.
Really?
Yeah.
I have too much ADD for chess. Like I like chess, but like I'm definitely more of a checkers type of guy. You
You should be a speed chess player. You can play games that are like 2 minutes.
Really?
It's super fun. Maybe I'll teach you.
Maybe we'll play some chess sometime.
Play some chess together.
So anyway, you got this, agency. You had another partner at first. I remember. We're not going to mention him, but like, he was there, and then you dump that man, and then you get Kevin, and at the time, like MuteSix, we still, SEO is kind of like, I call SEO like the dark state, or what do they call that? The the deep state. Sorry about that. I call SEO the deep state. I don't know how it's done. No one really talks about anything. It's just like the deep state, with the CIA. It's like no one knows anything. So anyway, you're like, Steve, I'll do all the SEO for all your clients. So you kind of
let's go to the beginning.
Yeah.
So I walked in and Steve says to me, if you can get MuteSix number 1 on Google for Facebook advertising agency, then I'll start referring you to all of our clients. And I was like, well, I think I can do that pretty quickly. And he's like, okay, cool. So Steve hired me and started paying me as a consultant to work on their SEO.
That's true.
And within 3 months, MuteSix was number 1 on Google when you Googled Facebook advertising agency, and it blew his mind and he started making referrals.
Yeah, I mean, if something works for you, it could work for other people. Go figure. Anyway, yeah, we started getting, 5 leads a month, 10 leads, 20 leads, all from SEO. So I was like incredibly impressed with John. I didn't know how he did it. Again, I think of SEO as the deep state. So
well, Steve pretended like he didn't know who I was for 6 months. So I would go into his office every single day, and there was this one legendary time where I was so excited to see him. I would dress up like he was such a big deal. He was running this huge company. He had 400 employees. I was just getting started. And I just knew because of Kevin that he was such a good guy and I wanted to get in with him. And I would see him coming down the hall and he was on this little scooter. He had this little
razor scooter.
He had this little razor scooter.
Yeah.
And I would like prepare all week to like try to stop him and like get a few minutes with him, etc. And every single time for the first few months that I would see him, he would scoot up right up next to me. And then when he got right next to me, he would just look the other way and go, doop, and scoot right by me. But then after I got number 1 for him on Google, I would just grab him and go, Steve, did you see what I did for you guys? And he was so excited. And the first referral that he made for me was Fun Boy.
Fun Boy.
Those pool floats that everybody loves.
Floaties,
the floaties, yeah. And they're still a client to this day and very close friends. And they've been a client since the beginning of Grow. But Steve was just unbelievable for us, man. He lit us up in a way that I can't even possibly describe. Within, I think, 18 months, we had the fastest growing SEO agency in the country.
Yeah, so I never wanted to do SEO at MuteSix. I thought it was just not what we did. And so, could we have done SEO and said that we did it? Sure. But like, I was like really impressed. I was like, yo, listen, these guys, I remember having a conversation with my business partner, being like, yo, like, these guys do great SEO. Fuck it. Like, why try to do this shit ourselves? And let's just refer it all to them. So it worked really well. I think they definitely capitalized on us doing Facebook ads. I think like when someone sees an ad on Facebook, guess what they Google? They Google the brand name, and the brand name comes up. It's like, wow, win, win, win. So anyway, we started referring, how many brands? Hundreds of brands to you guys?
I don't know the exact amount.
But it was significant.
But the more important thing was the people that you introduced me to.
Who was the first person that comes to mind that like I introduced you to that impacted your life positively, John?
There's a lot of them, but you introduced Kevin and I on a random text message to Carter Ream.
Yeah.
And that was another day where my whole life changed.
Carter's a great guy. it's another story, but Carter almost bought MuteSix at one point, and he's still a friend today. It didn't actually work that he ended up buying us, but I love to give him a shout out on the pod and the YouTube because he's a legend. Him and his brother Courtney are really good friends of ours.
They went on to do a few other good things as well. So yeah, no, but Steve just threw us on a text message with Carter. We had no idea who he was because with Steve, when you get a text message, like, 90% of them, you have no idea. Like, it's just his like brain, like connecting people that he thinks should be connected. Sometimes they're amazing, sometimes they don't work out, but you always follow up with them no matter what because you have no idea what it'll lead to. Yeah. And this one was the best text message that we've ever received because then we started working with Carter and he introduced us to his network. And it's just been such a crazy, amazing ride, man. I really want to say from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for helping us get on our feet and get our business started, man.
So you got your business started. Where are you guys now, man? Like, just tell us, you've had a lot of success. Obviously, like, I helped you guys because you guys are homies, but I also helped you because I believed in you. I thought that you guys did great work. I cared about you guys, but where are you guys now? Like, tell us, like, just where's the business now? Because I think you've grown and had a significant amount of success.
Yeah, man. Well, about the business is good. It's a great business, but we pivoted it again about 8 months ago, fully into generative engine optimization. So we went back to our roots of SEO, but now for ChatGPT. And we believe that is going to be the future of shopping for brands. For example, I took my blood test that I just did, a few weeks ago, and I uploaded it to ChatGPT. And I said, based on my blood test, what vitamins should I be taking? Wow. And it spit out all of the vitamins I should be taking. Some of them were ones that my doctor told me already, like magnesium, but now it's telling me the exact amount, the exact brand I should take, etc. Right? And then I had to go take every single vitamin and go over to Amazon one by one, and I had to put them into Amazon and check out and send them to my house. Well, in about 3 months, instant checkout for ChatGPT is going to be live. And I'm going to be able to just go one click and buy all of the vitamins that I need based on my blood test. So about 8 months ago, we saw this coming and we pivoted our whole business into it. And it's just been another massive success. But we have, over 100 staff now. We are doing full service digital marketing. So we do paid social, creative, email and SMS, SEO, GEO, lifestyle marketing, conversion rate optimization. But the thing that we are the most excited about is GEO, baby.
Yep. So let's talk about GEO for a second. I look at these LLMs, I'm just like, Gemini is so good. Gemini is like literally competing.
The new version's insane.
The new version of Gemini is just
a nano banana.
A nano banana, obviously. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So who's taking I know ChatGPT definitely has to be very worried about Gemini. Gemini is free. So, you could do everything you can do with ChatGPT with Gemini for free. And so, like, when you guys think about building your business for augmentative search, AI search, how do you guys think about incorporating not just ChatGPT? Because that might not even be a big feature if ChatGPT can't keep users, the idea of like checkout. But like, how do you guys think about having all these other platforms like LLMs?
It's a good question, man. The truth of the matter is that they're all basically learning the same way. It's so crazy how it worked. So at first, the information started coming from these crazy platforms, like they were learning from Reddit and they were learning from Quora and like all these places that like Quora, yeah, you wouldn't want to learn from them, right? But then it's all coming back around now to expert written content by humans. One of my favorite things, one of the favorite stats that I've seen, because we've been selling this to our clients for a long time, is that last year, in the last 12 months, 50% of the total content on the internet was written by humans and 50% of the total content was written by AI, okay? But Google, in its search results, in Gemini, in its fact citing, cited 90% of the facts that came from the human written content. Wow. And ChatGPT cited 90% of the facts that came from the human written content. So it's so obvious that these things want to learn from experts that write articles on particular subject matters, right? What's the one thing that would stop you from using ChatGPT or Gemini, right? It would be that you started typing in prompts and that the facts and the information that it's giving you is not accurate.
Not accurate. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So their whole thing is we want to learn from experts. Now, what they're using Reddit for is what this thing is called the sentiment score. It's like a ranking factor, right? So let's say they find a ton of different prenatal women's vitamins that they love and they don't know how to rank them. Then they'll go read Reddit. Then they'll go read Quora and they'll go, oh, we're going to put Ritual number one because 1,000 different people on Reddit are saying that they love Ritual.
Got it. Got it. So it's interesting. So the human writing is still, if you are a brand or you're an advertiser, you want to keep having humans write about you. So obviously, integrating Reddit, integrating a lot of these social channels that Google and Gemini and ChatGPT are picking up is incredibly important. What other, besides like some of these social channels, like what other, like how much actual traffic is ChatGPT generating? I mean, I think that's the question everyone has is like, is it actually worth it? I mean, and how do you even judge, like if you hire an AI SEO agency, how do you even know if they're doing a good job or not?
Yeah, it's so funny because Steve is a legend and a pioneer in Facebook advertising, right? And Facebook
Yeah.
advertising, when it was in its heyday, was just like there was literally nothing ever like it in the history of marketing. Truly, that's why all the venture capital money was going into it.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
it was all the in 2016, 2019, all these e-commerce brands were raising serious VC money. Like they were like, this is the future, direct to consumer. We're not going through retail anymore. We're going direct. And guess what? That Target, Amazon, they kind of dispelled that notion pretty quickly, you know?
Yeah, no, totally. And I think the other thing that's so interesting about it is they were pre-making deals. Like they would have a deal with Pepsi on like a drink brand that they were starting.
Yeah.
Right. And like the whole thing they had to do was just buy a lot of media.
Yeah.
That was it. They would just buy media for 3 years. They would auto trigger a sell back to Pepsi.
Yeah.
Right. There's a few companies that I know that did that I can't say because of NDAs and stuff. But like the whole deal was like, just get it to 100 million run rate and then we'll buy it for $1 billion.
Yeah.
And all they had to do was buy media. So those days are over. And I don't know that ChatGPT and Gemini will ever be a scale channel like that for e-commerce.
Yeah.
Right. But what I do know is that we do have brands that are doing 1 million unique visitors a month from ChatGPT right now.
Yeah.
Ticketing platform, red light company, a few different ones. And it is not too difficult to make into a profitable channel. So if somebody's paying us $10,000 a month to help them with their Reddit, with their content writing, with their on-page optimization to make sure that the robot text files can be read by the LLMs, etc., within 6 months, on a 100% basis, we're turning it into a profitable channel. Some brands are making 25,000 a month. Some brands are making 100 a month. Some are making 1 million a month from it. But a lot of it also depends on how much content you have, how many SKUs you have, and then how you know how to submit those into the LLMs.
Interesting. LLM SEO.
How are you using that right now in your business, man?
So right now I'm CEO of a brand new CEO of a marketing services agency called EverService. We have similarly, we're using a tool called Profound, which does audits, AI SEO. To be honest, I don't know where it's going. I think what John and Kevin are doing is probably the right way to do it. I don't think we've really cracked the code on anything related. We do mostly SEO for attorneys and home services businesses. So
I think it's hard though, because I think that where Google still dominates is on localization.
yeah.
Right? Like ChatGPT, because it doesn't have a maps built into it yet, Google still has a huge moat on localization.
Yep. I mean,
People are still going to go. If I want to go to like a local restaurant, I'm still using Google and stuff to find stuff around me.
Yeah.
Right. But maybe chat will get there eventually. But I'm just saying, yeah, I understand how for lawyers and home services in little geos, like it might not be as powerful as it is for like people that are looking for wellness hacks.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's a three-pronged approach. I think that when you look at marketing on these LLMs, you can't bet on one horse. You got to bet on, you don't know if it's going to be Grok, it's going to be Gemini, it's going to be, ChatGPT. You don't know if they're going to be releasing ad network soon. I mean, you'd assume that, if you look at Google right now, if you look at Gemini, they actually have ads right underneath the Gemini responses. So Google is really going to capitalize on stuff first. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the next horizon, man. As you look at your agency, like what's your end goal, man? You want to sell it? You want to keep running it? Like what's your passion, man? And for those that run agencies, as you know, some of these things are not the easiest things to run, but what is your goal? What is your end goal, man? I've helped
Yeah.
you. You know, we've had a long friendship.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you asking that question. I mean, look, I think I learned from you, man. It's not, I'm never trying to build something to sell it,
Yeah.
right? I don't think that's how you do. I think you want to build something that's so cool that people come knocking on your door and they want to buy it, right? So, we didn't know what that was 6 months ago.
Sure.
Because Facebook ads has been around for so long, and yeah, we had a great business. We have a lot of employees. We have a lot of really cool brands that we work with, but like we didn't have that new magic yet, right? And so all I'm focused on right now is just building the most effective GEO agency in the country, dominating instant checkout on ChatGPT for our brands. And if one day the right person comes around and they give us an offer that we can't refuse, I mean, my door is always open. But the other thing is that I'm curious from you. What is it like to sell an agency like this? Is it as good as you thought it would be?
Well, it's a question for a podcast in itself. Obviously, you know, purpose is really important in my life, and I think that you learn about purpose after you've satisfied all the needs that you thought you had financially. As I said earlier, as tell everyone, I moved out here with $250 in my bank account and maxed out credit cards with a dream and a hope that someday I'll be able to make enough money to live in Los Angeles in the nice weather with all the beautiful women out here. And, I've satisfied a lot of those needs. I've satisfied all those needs. Like I never thought I'd build a business that, reached, 500 plus employees and had a 9-figure exit. But after you do that, and you get married to the love of your life, like what do you do next? And I think that's the thing that I'm trying to figure out, right now is like, how do you generate that same level of purpose that you wake up for every single day when you have two of the things that you really wanted your whole life, which was love and money. You want a family and money. Like how do you generate that same level of purpose? And to be honest, like many founders who've had success, it's a struggle every day. Every day you're trying to find something. You have compulsive thoughts. You're trying to overcome your own like self-doubt that you have. Even though you've had success, the self-doubt that you have doesn't ever really go away. It doesn't. Like the same self-doubt I had moving out here and growing up, I think that money would solve that self-doubt, but money doesn't solve the self-doubt. That's why you have to keep working on yourself, man. And I'm sure, John, you've been through a lot of darkness in your life, and you know about the self-doubt as entrepreneurs, and they look at us and like, Steve is rich. Ooh, that's great. John is rich. Ooh, that's great. Well, the reality is that we've overcome so much self-doubt. We're still overcoming it.
I think your story of what happened after your exit has helped me in my life more than anything else. And all the shit that I've been through.
Yeah.
Because I saw what happens, right? If you don't love what you're doing every single day, then it's hard to be happy. That's the bottom line. So even when horrible things happen, even if we get hit with this issue and that issue and things that seem insurmountable, right? I still am able to go, fuck, I'm so grateful that I get to go through this. And this is part of my journey and that I'm in it right now. And I'm fighting for something that I love and that I care about. That's what makes me so excited every single day is I don't care if it's good or if it's bad. It doesn't matter to me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful that I have something that I will die for if I had to right now.
I got the money wired to me that when I sold MuteSix, it was tens of millions of dollars. I'm not going to say the exact number, but I'm sitting at the Western Wall with my wife, Gavi. There's a picture of me, and I'm looking on my phone. And I see the money clear in my bank account. There's more money there than I ever, know what to do with. Like it's just there, and it's just like, and I remember just thinking like, this is going to solve all the painful issues of my life. This is going to solve, whether it was, my dad leaving me at 5 years old or all the random shit that we go through, all the troubles I had as a kid, selling drugs and doing dumb shit. Like I was a dipshit as a kid. So like, I thought that like money would solve everything. And I remember just thinking, I was like, this is what's going to be impactful. And then at the same time the money hit, one of my best friends in LA, another digital marketer, Danilo Lee was his name. He committed suicide the same day that that I sold my company. So while the money cleared and I'm like celebrating with my future wife, the love of my life, I found out that Danilo, my best friend, who always looked out for me, was one of the warmest, kindest human beings ever. He had just committed suicide. He hung himself sadly, and perished. And I was at his wedding. I knew his wife. I mean, he was one of my really close friends. What he introduced me to one of my best friends now who work for me, French Alex. And so, you know, the reality is money doesn't solve all of life's needs, and it opened up a lot of other stuff. And still to this day, like, you know, battling your own mental health. I'm sure there's a lot of post-exit founders who you meet who all struggle with the same thing. But what I'll tell you, for those listening to this podcast that are on the journey of becoming successful, it's once you reach it, all the stuff that you went through doesn't go away. It just doesn't. Like, it kind of amplifies it because you don't have a purpose. You don't, and you get depressed about it. I wake up every day. The reason I'm doing this podcast is because I need a purpose. I need to inspire people, and
Yeah.
and like I wake up every day trying to figure out what that purpose is.
Yeah, I love that. And I think ultimately I am mission driven. I'm not money driven anymore. You know what I mean? My mission is to help as many other people that are struggling as possible. And that's my primary purpose. And I try to use the darkness that I went through to be able to do that. But when I'm helping other people, I'm not thinking about myself. And I've learned that is ultimately a selfish way of taking care of myself, is to help other people. But you do that a lot too, man. And I appreciate all the good stuff that you do.
You know, it's the only way I deal with like life. I mean, I have two daughters who are just unbelievable. God bless me to have two daughters. I have a wife that like loves me more than life itself. And, you know, and everyone looks at me, they're like, Steve, you know, you have everything. But the reality is that what makes you rich is not the amount of money in your bank account, but it's the impact that you have in other people's lives. So
the connections you have to other human beings.
Yep.
That's why I'm a billionaire today.
Exactly. So like when you think of like what being rich is, it's the connectivity to people and saying that people count on you, that you're someone that others can count on. And how do you know that? How do you learn that? You don't learn that. No one tells you that. You're not going to school and someone was like, yo, listen, the more positive impact you have people's lives, the happier you'll be. No one learns that at school. No one learns that watching movies. You know, what you learn is that the more material, the more shit that you have, that the happier, the more money you make. I know so many rich people right now, John, that people way richer than me,
miserable.
that are not only miserable, but they're still chasing money. They have to chase money, because if they don't chase money, they have to come back and have and they have to face their fears. Like the minute you stop chasing money is the minute you actually have to face whatever you're really, really, really scared of.
It's really so true, man. They don't want to. And once you reach a certain point in that journey, there's no turning back, right?
Yeah.
There's no turning back. So I'm just grateful that I went through every single thing that I went through, because it allowed me to restart my life at the age of 30, understanding what's important, who my real friends are, right? And not what's not important. There's never like if I get X amount, I'll be happy. I already know that's not the case, man.
Yeah.
Right? What makes me happy is on the holidays when people reach out to me and they say, hey man, thank you so much for everything that you did for me this year. I really appreciate that. That is more valuable to me than any amount of money, any amount of deal any size deal I've ever closed, any investment we've ever made that turned out to be something special. That is what means the most to me. And I know that's what means the most to you too, man. I know you did a lot. I know you helped a lot of people recently. And so I appreciate you doing that. And I'm sure that that's what makes you happy too.
I mean, I think like if I look at the happiest moment of the last 6 months for me, I won't say the happiest moment, but the moment where I felt most purpose was probably helping people in the fires. Was probably like, you know, feeling like that I had a purpose in helping people salvage whatever they had to salvage, you know. I know it sounds a bit cathartic, but like, you know, I wish I could have done more, and like it's still a source of.
No, you did amazing stuff, man. I was with you during that whole time.
Yeah.
The stuff that you did was incredible.
It's still a tremendous.
I was with this guy, and the fire department was letting us know that they couldn't get service in the mountains because there was no cell phone service. They're trying to fight these insane fires, right? And Steve was like, this is crazy. I'm going to solve this problem. He literally makes a few phone calls, and within 2 days, he has Starlinks in these valleys of these crazy mountains deep out there, so that the firefighters are able to communicate with each other while they're fighting this fire. I
Yeah,
mean, what's more of an impact than that, buddy?
well, we just had Captain.
Did you ever think a kid like you would be able to make an impact like that?
I was always on the wrong. I know this podcast, this video is going in a lot of different directions, but I was always on the other side of the law. I was always trying to beat the system versus help the system. For my whole childhood, I was like, how could I make money? How could I make money on it? How could I survive? And like, if that meant breaking the law, if that meant being on the fringes of it, I didn't give a fuck. I was gonna go break the law. I would do whatever the fuck it takes to make money. And but then I realized, at an older age, that like the real purpose, that's all bullshit. That's all like what young kids do who have no father figure, who have no mentors, who have no one to look up to. Like that's what they do. That's kind of like the heathenistic side of ourselves of survival. Now that you have everything you need, now you got to figure out like, how do I bring value to people and feel good about it?
Yeah, and the experiences that you create for people, man. Like I was just at your birthday party.
Yeah.
Right? Like you had the chief of the fire department. You had the guy who saved your house there together, sitting at the front of the table with some other guy that has the biggest company in Los Angeles. Yeah. Right? Like you put people together and create and curate these amazing experiences that change people's lives.
Yeah. I mean, listen, like, I know this podcast, this video kind of was unstructured. We'll put it all together. We'll put the pieces of the puzzle together, but
don't worry about it. Just let it go, buddy.
The bigger.
He's deciding if he wants me to permanently join the podcast.
The bigger source of it all is that you don't always need to have a plan. You don't always need to do stuff to have a plan to make money. I've had so many people who ask me when I started creating content like this, how are you making money? How are you monetizing? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? And everything is based around like, how the fuck do I make money off this? And the reality is like, I don't really want to make money off everything. I want to do stuff that people remember. I want to do stuff that people, look up to and say, listen, that guy had a selfless part of him that really shined deeper than most people. And John has also that selfless vibe to him where it's not always about the short game of like, let's make as much money. How can we make $1 billion here? The short game doesn't go far in business. The long game, and I'll talk more about this on a later podcast, but you play that long game and you bring value to people, the amount of referrals, the amount of people that like...
It all comes back around, man.
Yeah, like I went, every single person I talked to initially at MuteSix, I was very honest. I was like, listen, like, I don't know a lot of people. I don't know a lot of brands. I don't know, I can't really sell a lot of, I'm starting off. I don't even know if I have an agency. I'm just Steve Weiss running fucking Facebook ads in the back of Starbucks, half crying myself to sleep because my stepdad just died. And the other part of me is trying to stay productive. But like, what I didn't know was I went to every single person that I met in LA and I was very different than most people. I said, listen, how could I bring value to you? Tell me this. Like, instead of me trying to sell you on something to work with me, how could I bring, you want an intro to an accounting firm, or you want an intro to, a great marketer to hire in-house. All right, well, I'm going to use my network to like make a positive impact in your life, even if you never actually work with me. You might never work with me. You might never hire me or MuteSix, but you might say like, hey, you know what? Steve's a great guy. Like he wasn't after the short game. He wanted to bring value to me. And I think not enough people in this world really understand that.
Yeah. And then again, the last point I want to make is that, my dad's been through so much. He was a famous, amazing Hollywood writer, producer, made a bunch of big movies, had some, of the highest times in the world, some of the lowest times in the world. And he's truly the happiest person I've ever met. And he doesn't got much, he's been through a lot. And I always look at, why is he so happy? I just couldn't understand it. I was like, is he just wired that way? Like, he truly is so happy. He wakes up in the morning and he's singing and he's laughing and the reason why he's so happy, I learned, is because he loves what he does. He just does what he loves every single day, no matter what. And that is to create. He creates scripts and musicals and movies and ideas, and he's creating this idea with that person and this idea with this other person, and just the ideas and pitching them to everybody in town. And just doing what you love doing makes you so happy. And if you're younger and you just do what you love doing, you become the best in the world at it, the money will find you.
The money, success will find, and that's a good wrapping up point. If you could take one thing away from me in this this man blabbering over the YouTube videos, over the YouTube world. You know, I think that the more happiness you create in your life, the more people that you touch, the more success you'll create. There might not be a straight up A to B vision of how to make money. There might, there might, and there isn't. We're not wired that way in this universe. And I know a lot of people want to know. They're like, what is my path to success? What is my path? Like I get that all the time, right, John? Like, what is my path? I'm struggling at a job. I'm worried about AI taking my job. I'm worried about having a job. And your path might not be clear, but the more happiness and light you bring to others, the more light that will come your way, and it'll become more and more clear as to what your path will be.
Yeah, and just my advice too is just don't make money your mission, right? Like your happiness should not be tied to how much money you have in your bank account. Your happiness should be tied to how many other people you're helping and how much value you're bringing to them, like you always say. And the more value that you bring to people, the more money's just going to come back to you. So it's funny kind of how it works, right? But if you're chasing the money, thinking that it's going to make you happy, you're on the wrong path. If you're bringing value to other people because you've learned something out in the world that you want to teach them and help them understand, right? Then a lot more money is going to come back to you anyways, just as a logical corollary of following that kind of a path. There was this amazing thing that I want to say before we close. So my YPO chapter, I forget the names of the guys, but there's this group of guys that made this bucket list thing. Have you ever heard of this?
Yeah.
And they just made like a list of like 1,000 things that they wanted to do before they died, and they just started doing them. Some of these things were crazy. Some of these things were like they were running on fields and games, and they just didn't go to college, I think the story is, and they just went and did all of the things that they wanted to do, right? And this guy's truly like the happiest guy I've ever met in my life. You can just tell because he's done all the shit that he wanted to do. They interviewed, I think is one of the things, it's somewhat, the story goes somewhat like this. They interviewed a lot of people or worked with a group that interviewed a lot of people that were on their deathbeds. And they asked the people, what did you regret the most in your life? And none of them said that they regretted anything that they did. So it wasn't that stupid thing that they tried to do that got them into trouble or that stupid thing that they did and the business idea that it didn't work out. The only thing that they regretted was the shit that they didn't do.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, I think about that a lot is like, the people in your life, the connections will bring you closer to those experiences that like you have no regrets for. We're not as human beings, we're not able to function with too much time on our hands. I know I have so many friends who are what you call post-exit founders, and like these are, there's a whole group around post-exit founders, and I hope no one takes offense to this. They might, and I kind of just don't give a fuck, but I'll just be honest. They're some of the most miserable people that I know. Like I know I got a buddy of mine. He's a great guy. He sold his business for $850 million. He's got more money than God. He's fucking miserable. He's single. He's running around like he's like late 30s and like and like you think that he has it. Everyone's like, oh, he has his time back, whatever that means. He has his time back, and the easiest way for me to get stuff done and be productive with my time toward bucket list items was when I was working around my friends. When I was working and I had a mission, like it was so much easier for me to be productive. But now that I'm like, no, not to say like I'm married with 2 kids, but like I'm trying to find that mission and purpose. So it's a lot harder for me to chase those bucket list items,
Yeah, man. It's the amount of stories that I'm hearing of people that sold their companies for insane amounts of money. It's just the same thing over and over again. It's anticlimactic. So the whole point is that make your mission something that is more important than money, because money is not going to bring you happiness. What's going to bring you happiness is connections with other people. So if you run over a bunch of people to get to the top to sell your company, you're going to have a lot of money and you're going to be miserable.
Yeah, I mean, we know a lot of people in our network who are like that, and so as we like conclude here, if you're listening to this podcast, I don't want to scare you about what the future holds, but what I do want to do is like if you're building a business and you're at a point in your career where you're like, hey, listen, I'm so burnt out. I need to sell this thing. I need to get out. I need just to make a ton of money and just figure out life after. I'm here to tell you that the money's not going to solve all the other issues that you have. and you'll figure out those issues. You'll look at those issues after you sell your business, and it'll be very difficult for maybe 6 months to a year. You'll be like, holy shit, I didn't realize that, like, I have all these other things in my life that I'm struggling to solve. And, like, it might be what you call a first world problem. I know a lot of people will look at me and say, Steve, what the fuck? Like, you got cash, you're good. But look at all, I mean, another great example, look at all the NBA, NFL players who are crushing it and then just left the sport, and now they're lost, So I mean, why is LeBron playing 22 plus years? Because that dude knows, he's like, yo, when I leave, what the fuck I'm gonna do,
The two most important days of your life, the day that you're born and the day that you find out why. If you're watching this right now, I hope your why is never about money, but it's always about doing something greater that helps a lot of people.
Yep, and there it goes. John, thanks for coming on the second episode of the Steve Weiss podcast. I couldn't come up with a great name, so I just, Joe Rogan inspires me. He used his name. Why the fuck can I use my name? Steve Weiss, baby. Thanks for listening. We have another great episode coming up right after this. Follow me on YouTube, Instagram, Steve Weiss Show, YouTube, Steve Weiss Show, X, Steve Weiss Show. Follow me there and sign up to my newsletter, and you hear a whole bunch of other dumb shit that I talk about. Talk soon.